I know y'all think I'm just talking out of thin air. Getting out of the environment that is stressing you out just to get some fresh air. Can we snap our fingers? Because it makes you feel a lot better.
I've been working on me. I've been loving on me. I had to learn.
Hey guys, welcome back to Mama's Faithfulness, where we explore the warmth of family and the strength of faith. In today's video, we are going to be talking about a very important topic, and that is self-care as a wife and mom. Self-care in general is very important, and it goes into very many different things. But I think as a wife and as a mom, it can easily be neglected, and that's not okay, sis. That is simply not okay. I took a lot of time out to curate this list, and we're gonna go over a bunch of different things. So grab your popcorn, get your tea, your coffee, your Stanley cup of water, whatever you need to do. Get your notepad, because we are going to dive into it. So the first thing we want to do is we really want to understand what self-care is. Self-care, like I stated, can go into very many different things. It's not just going and get your nails done, although that is important. And if that is what makes you feel good, then sis, by all means, do that thing. But self-care is more than a bubble bath, more than sipping wine. It really goes into your mental health, your well-being, your physical health. It goes into a lot of different things. So again, you have mental health. That's an important part of self-care. You have your physical health, your relationship quality, balance. You really have to make sure that there is a healthy balance in your life. And that really ties into self-care as well. You know, your mental health is, I feel like, one of the things that's at the top of the list, because self-care can really reduce stress, anxiety, depression. Once you have a good self-care routine, you will be more equipped to handling the demands of marriage and motherhood. And that's just the reality of it. So let's just jump right into this little list I curated of things you can do in order to help build a really nice self-care routine. Prioritizing me time is important and vital for self-care, because in the long run, this will help you with your mental health, your creativity, your productivity, as well as your personal growth and balancing your responsibilities as a wife and a mom. Set aside, use some time to really just do whatever it is that will help you, just decompress. And remember, self-care is not selfish, but necessary for your overall well-being. The next tip that I have to help you build a nice self-care routine is balancing your responsibilities. Balancing your responsibilities as a wife and mom, it can be really tough, honey. You be having all kinds of things going on, like especially if you're like a stay-at-home mom and you don't necessarily have a lot of help. It can get really crazy. You have to take care of your husband as far as preparing meals, and if you have older kids, you have to prepare meals for them as well. Even if you have younger kids, my child is she's 9 months, and she is, newly eating. Well, she's been eating solids for a little bit, but I just started, really trying to hone in on baby led weaning. So that means I have to really take time out to focus on her meals as well. So not only do I have my husband to prepare meals for, but I have to prepare meals for my daughter as well. And then also I have to make sure that I'm being fed. So, you really need to see and try to figure out how you can balance your responsibilities. If that means, writing out a schedule, like literally writing out your day from beginning to end, or even doing like, I forget what it's called, but it's like it's a schedule as well, but you allot a certain amount of time for different things throughout your day. So once that timer goes off, say you have 2 hours to do 3 different tasks. Once that timer goes off, you move to the next thing. Balancing your responsibilities is going to be at the top of your list as far as like a good self-care routine and just finding that peace of mind. So let's go into a couple of different tips I have that can help you balance your responsibilities as a mother and a wife. So the first thing is communication. Be open and honest with your spouse, if you are married, about, your roles and your expectation, or their expectations of you as a wife, and how you can support each other. Yes, at the end of the day, as a mother and as a wife, it is your primary role, thus saith the Lord, thus saith what is written in the Bible. It is your primary role to take care of the house, to take care of, all the things that tie into managing a home and taking care of a family. But if you communicate with your husband, you never know. He may be willing to lessen the load, I guess you could say. And then there may be times where your husband is like, no, at the end of the day, this is your role and responsibility, which it is. And that will be the time when you have to dive into some other tips that I have. Now, don't think I ain't forgot about you sisters who, for instance, your Lord or your husband could be a truck driver and is on the road 24/8. So you're at home, pretty much a lot of the time by yourself. And so you don't have that option for your husband to lessen the load of any sort. And when I say lessen the load, I mean whatever that looks like for you. These tips, I'm going to give y'all so many different tips that you will be able to pull and grab from whatever you can apply to your life, and whatever you can't, you throw out. So when I say lessen the load, I mean something as simple as like, oh, you know what? I'll watch the baby for 30 minutes while you take a nap. Or it could even be something as simple as, don't worry about the dishes. As your husband, I'm not going to wash them. But you can go and take a nap. Don't worry about them. You can get to them tomorrow. There has been times where my husband has literally said to me, like, don't worry about the dishes. Don't worry about the mess. Go relax and take a nap. So again, it's really, really, really important for you to communicate how you're feeling, and your roles and responsibilities and expectations from your spouse. It's really important for you to communicate those things, because I know, I know some sisters, I know some friends who their husband is like, pretty laid back and chill. Like, I really don't care about anything. As long as you got my food on the table, I don't care. And then you have some husbands who they want certain things done. Like, I remember talking to a sister, and she said her husband, the only thing that he really cared about, or the thing that he cared about the most, was their room, their bedroom, because that was where he spent most of his time. So it's like, if you communicate those things with your spouse and you understand and know what expectations your spouse has of you, that can really help as far as like your self-care and as far as like your mental. The next thing I have on the list of balancing your responsibilities as a wife and mother is prioritize. So now that you've communicated, you know what your expectations of a wife and mother are, you need to prioritize. Make a list of things that are most important and things that are, everything's important. But at the top of your list, you want the things that are most important. At the bottom, you want the things that are least important. For instance, something that may be the most important could be like doing laundry. At the end of the day, your family has to have clothes to put on their back. Your husband may go out to work, to the office every day, so he's gonna need his work shirt. So that may be at the top of your list. And while, let's say, sweeping or mopping the floor might be somewhere in the middle, maybe even at the bottom of your list. Dusting may be all the way at the bottom of your list. And I'm just throwing out like little general household chores, but it could be anything. It could be going to the grocery store. It could be maybe you had an appointment. Appointments, of course, are going to primarily be at the top of your list. But at the end of the day, you really do want to prioritize your time, because once you prioritize your time, that will definitely take a load off of you. And you won't just be doing stuff. You will be doing what's most important, and then that will equate to less stress. Y'all probably will hear my daughter in the background. I effectively communicated with my husband that I wanted to put out this video for you. So he said, you know what, I will watch Alina for a few minutes while you record your video. So they're right outside the door, so you may hear them. So the next thing you want to do is delegate. Now, when I say delegate, I don't mean go and making demands. You know, like I stated, at the end of the day, your role is your role. You know, as a wife and a mom, again, you know, it is your primary duty to take care of your family and take care of your home. But you may have some family members, you may have some friends that are willing and more than willing to help you, you know. So there may be times where you can delegate. And when I say delegate, I mean you may have a list of tasks. You can prioritize your list of tasks, and now you can go on that list and say, hey, you know what, I think my sister friend said that she was going to the laundromat and she just had a small, and I'm literally just coming off the dome with these crazy scenarios. But yeah, my friend said she was going to the laundromat and she just had like a little load of clothes. Maybe she won't mind taking mine to the laundromat. Now, again, this does not mean you're just throwing stuff off on people, and this does not mean you are expecting these people to do these things. This is just an option and a way for you to possibly make your load as a wife and mother lesser. Again, this is your role as a wife and mom, but we are trying to find ways to make your life easier, ways for you to implement self-care. And these little things that I'm mentioning, these are self-care. This is self-care as a wife and mom. And I know that, like I said, I know it's not like taking a bubble bath, and it's not, you know, something like getting your nails done, but you have to understand that your mental health is so important. And when you do these things, this will definitely contribute to self-care and you just, you know, being in a better mental space. The next thing on the list, our next tip for balancing your responsibilities is set those boundaries. Set those boundaries. And this is something I had to learn the hard way. I used to be the type of person where yes was always my answer. You asked me if I could go to the store for you and buy your groceries, and I would say yes. Meanwhile, I ain't got nothing cooked at home for my family. You have to set boundaries. Your house comes first. Your mental state comes first. Your mental well-being comes first. Your house comes, like, literally, it's like a thin line. It comes right underneath. And the reason I say your mental state comes first is because there's no way that you can possibly pour into your home if your mental is not in a good state. So saying no is okay. Like, setting those boundaries and saying, you know what, I can't do this or I can't do that because I have to focus on my home. That's okay. It's not selfish. Like I said, it is not selfish, but it's very important. It's very, very important. So set those boundaries, whatever that looks like for you, set those boundaries. The next thing you want to do is be flexible. I know this is kind of crazy because I just said set your boundaries, but now I'm saying be flexible. Be flexible, be adaptable. Unexpected events can disrupt your plan. So it's important, sis, that you roll with them punches, okay? Because at the end of the day, like I always say, if you watch my vlogs, I always say like, oh, my baby, she's ever changing. Because I will never forget how much she changed just within the newborn stage. One day, you know, she was waking up at certain hours of the night. The next day, she was sleeping through the night. Then the next, it's like I can't get her to go down for a nap. And now, currently, right now, as we speak, Alina sleeps in her crib. She used to sleep in our bed. She literally used to could not fall asleep without being in my arms. Now she sleeps in her crib. It is really, really important to roll with the punches and to be adaptable and flexible, because at the end of the day, you do not want to ever get so comfortable with things being a certain way that when something pops off, now you don't know how to roll with the punches. And I'm telling you now, there has been a few times where I literally, going back to Alina's sleep pattern, like there has been times where like she would sleep so well through the night or during her nap, and I got comfortable with that. So I would be like, okay, Alina got about 45 minutes before she wakes up, so that means I have 45 minutes to do X, Y, and Z. And then one day Alina slept for 10 minutes and not 45, and now I'm in the middle of doing something that I can't stop and I'm looking crazy. So definitely be flexible. And so those are the tips of balancing your responsibilities, which is number 3. So let's kind of do a recap. I'm sorry, number 2. Let's kind of do a recap. So we went over understanding self-care. Y'all know what self-care is. Y'all know what that looks like. You have to figure out, at the end of the day, what it looks like for you. Then number 2 was prioritizing me time. Number 3 on our list is physical care. Now, I am going to go into this really briefly because it is important, but I'm not going to go too into detail because it's just not something that I am 100% like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not my strong point, but I do understand the importance of it and I am working on it. So physical care, let's talk about a balanced diet. Now, there's so many different diets out there, I know. So whatever diet you're on, if it works for you, then by all means. But it is so important to make sure that you are consuming lots of fruits and vegetables. You're controlling your portion size. You're not overeating. You're limiting processed food and sugary drinks. Again, I'm not going to go too much into it because, baby, I'm working on it every single day. I'm really working on all these steps every single day. But I would say this step right here is probably the biggest struggle for me because food, for one, it's so good. And 2, they have made things to where it's so easy to just pick up some fast food or get something that's processed, and then you can go on about your day. It really does make life a lot easier when you could just go pick up something from Chick-fil-A or something like that. But at the end of the day, like, a balanced diet is really, really important when it comes to self-care because when you're taking care of your body, you feel a lot better. Like when you're feeding yourself that healthy food, when you're drinking your water, you are gonna feel a lot better. I have recently did a cleanse and it was a struggle, a huge struggle. But just the little small like things that I did during the cleanse, like I definitely can see a difference. And then going back to the bad food, it's just like, oh, now I feel crappy. So it's like, it really does make a huge difference when you care about the food and what you're putting in your body. The next thing when it comes to physical health we want to talk about is exercise, y'all. Now this I really can't talk about because I am terrible. But when I tell you just a 30-minute walk every day or maybe 3 to 5 days out the week, that will make a difference. I'm trying to get there. Like if I could just walk 30 minutes for 3 to 5 days out the week, getting that vitamin D, getting that fresh air, like, especially if you're like newly postpartum, like if you just had a baby, getting out the house and getting fresh air and vitamin D is so important. I know y'all think I'm just talking out of thin air, but y'all, that vitamin D and that fresh air and getting out of the tight closed in space, even if you live in a 3-story house, getting out of the environment that is stressing you out just to get some fresh air. Can we snap our fingers? Because it makes you feel a lot better. I promise you. So do you some exercise, whatever that looks like for you. Like I said, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but do you some exercise, whatever that looks like for you. Stretching, I was going to say yoga. Some people might not be into yoga, but whatever works for you, do it. The last thing on our list for physical health that we're going to talk about is hydration. Y'all always see me drinking something. If you follow me, if you follow my blogs, I'm always drinking something. Always. I love different waters. I like coconut water. I love kombucha. I love to stay hydrated. And it really, 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 really is important because being dehydrated, that can literally take you out. So make sure that you're hydrated. Make sure you're drinking your water and staying up on your hydration. Nothing's going to change overnight. You're not going to just start doing all these steps overnight. But it's the baby steps and it's the consistency that will help you get there, okay? So the next thing we want to talk about is emotional self-care, okay? Emotional self-care. Let's just be honest. There is an emotional toll that comes with being a wife and a mother. Now, like I said, everybody's different. For most people, for me, myself included, motherhood can be so rewarding. It can. But there's a flip side to where it can be physically and emotionally demanding. So at the end of the day, you really have to figure out a way to get your emotions in control. Get those emotions in control, because one thing that doesn't change is your role as a wife and mother. Y'all know I'm gonna come with the tips. I'm not just gonna be like, hey, you need to get your emotions under control. Boom, bam, I'm out the door. No, I'm gonna come with the tips, because as women, we are emotionally unstable. We are the weaker vessel. So, it's natural for us to be emotional. It is. But it is also important to recognize these emotional experiences that you're going through. Let's get into things you can do to control those emotions. The first thing, practice being mindful. Now, when I say be mindful, it literally just means that, like, think before you say things. Sometimes it'll be your thoughts, and not even necessarily what you say, but in controlling your thoughts, you'll be able to control what comes out your mouth. And how do you do that? Meditation. And when I say meditation, I don't mean, the yoga positions. That can be a form of, relaxing, but your real meditation is going to come from the scriptures. Find you some scriptures to really focus on and meditate on that pertain to being emotional and whatever it is that, may be causing you to be emotional. Whether it can be anxiety, stress, being impatient with your children, being frustrated, anger. Find scriptures on that and meditate on it. Next thing is limiting your stressors. You have to identify what the source of stress is and minimize that thing. Because, example, while we are here on lovely YouTube, which is a form of social media could be a stressor for you. Going through Instagram and seeing, when I tell y'all, we live in a time of, social media is very, very powerful. You get on Instagram and you see nothing but these people who have these such aesthetically pleasing lives. And, every time you look up, you see somebody going about their daily life in such of a nice house that doesn't even look like somebody lives there. Now you're stressed out because you turn to the left and your house look like 5 million people live there. That's a stressor. Maybe you need to detox from social media. Maybe you need to take, a little break. Limit those stressors, okay? Identify them and then limit them. Am I saying take it completely away? Not necessarily, unless you need to do that, but limit what's stressing you out. The next thing you can do to help with your emotional self-care is positive self-talk. Literally, words of affirmation go a long, long way. I need to get back into it, but there was a point where I was waking up. I think I had affirmations right here on this wall. This was a couple of years ago. But literally, I would wake up, I would look at my word of affirmation. And that's how I would start my day. Coupled with scriptures, of course. Literally, that could go a long way, because the scripture talks about, as a man think, so is he. So when you read those affirmations, you go over those affirmations, you're literally programming into your mind these words of affirmation. Let's think of a word of affirmation. I am a great mother. I love my family. I am going to give my family my all. Boom. You wake up in the morning and you say that, you can't tell me that you're not that and that you're not going to do those things. So positive self-talk. Positive self-talk. Change those negative thoughts and replace them with those positive affirmations. The next thing on our list for emotional self-care is getting into hobbies and interests. I have a friend, literally every time I talk to her, she's like, oh, I'm going to get into soccer. Oh, I'm going to get into doing, what is it called? Pilates. She's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. she's keeping her mind busy. She don't have time to be emotional, to be, caught up in drama, whatever the case may be, because she's always keeping herself busy. So find you something that you enjoy doing. It could be journaling. It could be, like I said, playing soccer, getting into some sports. You would be surprised, because I know a lot of my viewers, we practice modesty. So, we don't wear anything but skirts and dresses. You would be surprised how many, just local sport teams or whatever there are out there that will allow you to wear your skirts. You can do it if that's what you want to do. You can take up the hobby of going to the bookstore once a week and just going and sitting down on the floor and reading a book in Barnes and Noble. Whatever, that hobby and interest is for you, hone into it. Like, really say, I'm going to, dedicate some time to say, I'm going to do this. Hey guys, this is me editing from the future. I just wanted to chime in and let you all know that this is really where you want to exercise effectively communicating with your partner, as well as delegating. You would be surprised how open and willing your spouse or even a friend would be to allowing you to go out and have some you time while they watch the kids for you. You never know unless you ask. The worst somebody can say is no. Because this is what's going to relieve some stress. This is what's going to make me happy. This is self-care for me. That's going to help you be less emotional, because again, you ain't going to have time. You're not going to have time to be thinking about X, Y, and Z, because you're going to be so caught up into what you're doing. Remember that everyone is different. So it is essential to find strategies that work best for you. For you. Not for me, but for you. The next thing we want to talk about is self-discovery. It is important to really just self-reflect, take a step back, self-reflect, examine yourself, and find potential interest. It kind of goes back into those hobbies and interests we were talking about. When you become a mother, your identity shifts. It doesn't necessarily have to do a complete 360, but it does do like a little shift. Some of the things that you used to do, you may not be interested anymore, or you may not have the time for anymore. So now, you're finding that you may like X, Y, and Z. For me personally, y'all know I've been on YouTube as a single person, as a wife, as a mother. So over time, my interest in the content that I watch on YouTube, as well as the content that I create for YouTube, it has changed. So you kind of have to rediscover yourself and figure out what it is that you like. But just because you have a baby does not mean that you can't have interest in hobbies anymore, that you're not a person that you can't be into certain things. No, you just have to take that time out to figure out what it is that you like and love now. Like I said, another example is, prior to having a husband and a child, I was the type of person where I would shop on Shein. I would go to the thrift stores. Nothing wrong with these places, by the way. I would shop at Ross. But now it's like quality over quantity. Like, I'm into new things now. And that took some time. Like, I wasn't always that way. But in having a baby and getting married, I had to rediscover myself. And that's who I am now. So the next thing we're going to talk about is time management. Now, we already talked about, what was it that we talked about? We talked about balancing your responsibilities, right? But you also need to manage your time. At the end of the day, it is so important for you to manage your time. You literally can, like I stated earlier, write out a little plan, what is it called? A routine. You can write out a routine and literally from the top to bottom, put on that routine, list out what it is that you have to do throughout the day and manage your time. Allot a certain amount of time for each task. Okay, I need to read my scriptures. I'm going to make sure that I allot an hour out of my day. An hour is a good amount of time. As a mother and a wife, if you're busy and if you're staying on top of things, An hour is a decent amount of time. Now, if you consuming other things like Netflix, you watching 3 hours of Netflix but only an hour of reading, then maybe you need to go back to the drawing board. But if you're actually being productive throughout your day, an hour is a good amount of time to set to the side for meditating on scriptures. So you may say, okay, I'm going to spend an hour meditating on scriptures, and then once that hour is up, it's time to move on to the next task. Okay, now I'm going to do chores throughout the house. I'm going to spend about 2 hours on chores. Now that time is up. That 2-hour timer done went off. Okay, it is time to move to the next task. Now, again, you're going to prioritize as well. You're going to time management, but you're going to also prioritize. So within that 2-hour frame that you're doing your house chores, you're going to have a list of what's most important. So that once that 2 hours is up, if you haven't finished everything, that's okay because you finished what's most important. So it is very, 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 very important to, time manage your time. I'm telling you all these things, but I also want to let y'all know that at the end of the day, don't be so hard on yourself. Again, this is not an overnight process. The point in applying these tips and these routines is to help you to become the person that you want to be, help you to be less stressed, help you to be able to implement more self-care. It's not to beat you up if you're not doing these things, or to make you think that you're less of if you don't have it all together. None of us have it all together. Like I said, I'm working on all these things that I'm listed out to y'all. But at the end of the day, we are all trying to become that woman. And in doing so, consistency is going to help us get there. It's okay if you fall one day, but it's about what you do the next day or even the next moment. At the end of the day, we all have, as long as we have breath in us, we have the opportunity to get it right. Which leads me to my next topic when it comes to finding the perfect self-care routine for you, is self-comparison. Sis, she ain't you and you ain't her. Stop comparing yourself to the next person. Stop comparing yourself. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Like, literally, that is not going to do you any justice. And when you stop comparing yourself to others, you can really improve your self-esteem and your overall happiness.
Hey guys, it's me again from the future. I did want to touch on this topic of self-comparison a little bit more, only and truly because self-comparison is something that I feel like everybody does, but it's just so toxic, and it's really crazy when you really think about it, because you do not know all that goes on in someone's life outside of what they share with you, outside of what you see on social media. And you really have to keep that in mind, because at the end of the day, you may be looking into someone's home and what they share with you on social media, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, that person's house is so clean. Meanwhile, they got a maid. You don't have a maid, sis. Stop comparing yourself. Now, does this mean every time you see a sister with a clean house, that means she has a maid? No. Does this mean that you can't have a clean house? No. But what I'm saying is, you just never know someone's full story. Your story is not hers.
You will be surprised how happy and less stressed you will be once you get out your mind that you have to keep up with the Joneses. Again, that may mean you need to stay off social media. It just may mean that. And it also may mean that you really need to take a step back and self-reflect and really dive into the root of why you can't stop comparing yourself to somebody, or why you're jealous of somebody. Because the last thing you really want to do is be jealous of the next person, because being jealous is a very deadly trait to have, and you don't want to be caught up in that spirit. You don't want to be caught up rolling like that. So let that fly out the window. Like I said, she ain't you and you ain't her. Okay? The next point that I want to go over is realistic expectations and setting goals. Those go hand in hand. You want to set goals, but you also want to have realistic expectations. Setting goals, what does that look like? Yeah, I just received a text, sorry. So what does setting goals look like? Okay. You you could even have it as short, okay, because you can set a goal for a year from now, but you can also set a goal for a day from now. So you can set goals as simple as like, okay, tomorrow I want to drink more water. Next year I want to have more patience. So set those goals, but also make them realistic. Don't say, oh, today I'm going to read for 5 hours. I'm going to study the scriptures for 5 hours. That's not a realistic goal, sis. But what you could do is say, you know what? Today I'm going to read 2 to 4 chapters out of the Bible. Because if you telling me that you ain't been reading, you ain't been on top of reading your scriptures for the past month, but today you're gonna read for 5 hours and you're gonna be consistent with that, I don't think so, sis. And that's like I said, I'm saying all these things and it may seem harsh. It may seem like I'm expecting y'all to do so much. But no, I'm saying these things out of love. I'm saying these things just to say, like, at the end of the day, be realistic with yourself. Because once you're realistic with yourself, you'll be a little bit kinder to yourself, I guess we could say. Like, if you're realistic about your goals, you will be a little bit kinder with yourself, which goes back to, which goes back to not comparing yourself as well. Be realistic with your goals. Be secure in yourself, and your goals may not look like my goals or the next sister's goals. These goals are going to be curated for you, specifically for you. So let's get into it. We've made it all the way to close to the end of the video. Let's talk about some self-care routine ideas. We talked about the different types of self-care and how you can really hone in on those different levels of self-care. Now let's talk about what you can do as far as routines. So for me personally, I have a shower routine. Do I get to do my shower routine to the T every single time? No, but we're getting there. But my shower routine looks like me lighting a candle, me allowing the bathroom to just be a whole mood and vibe. So like I said, that consists of me lighting the candles, me putting my diffuser on, and then I like to get in the shower. I like to double cleanse. So I wash myself with 2 different body washes, and then I will exfoliate once a week. I will get out the shower, I will moisturize, I will put on my body oils, I'll do my skincare. This is a self-care routine for me. I love it, and it's very vital because there was one point during my postpartum where take a shower. What? Baby, I'll be happy if I can get a wash off. So, and that was a me thing. That was because I was not effectively communicating with my spouse, because of course he would have allowed me to go and take a shower while he watched over the baby, but my communication skills weren't there. So there were times where, like, the day may pass and I'd be like, dang, I have not even took a shower. What? So you really have to make sure that you're implementing those self-care routines and effectively communicate so you can do so. Another thing you can do is you could do journaling. That could be a self-care routine. Spa days could be a self-care routine. Making sure you're reading. Another thing that I've been implementing and I've been doing pretty good at, but there's always room for improvement, is making sure when I wake up in the morning every single day, the first thing I do is pray and read my Bible. That is a self-care routine. Waking up in the morning and maybe the first thing you do is get a glass of water every single morning, a whole 8-ounce glass of water. That's self-care, because you're feeding yourself the things that it needs. I even know a sister, I was talking to one of my sister friends and she was like, hey girl, we should really try to do raw throughout the day, and then at night before, for our last meal of the day, we can have a well-rounded meal. That's a self-care routine. Hobbies, those are self-care routines. Like I said, doing bicycling or going and joining a soccer team. Those are self-care routines. Those are the routines that I have. Use your imagination. If y'all have any routines that y'all implement or any ideas, please leave them down below for other mommies and wives to see, because I may have missed some things. As much as we covered and talked about, I'm sure there's some things I probably missed. So let us know down below what you like to do for your self-care routine, so maybe that we can, try and see if it works out for us. So that is going to be the end of this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. But before we go, let's kind of go back over, let's summarize the different takeaways from this video. So the first thing we talked about was understanding self-care, what that looks like. The second thing we talked about was prioritizing me time. The third thing was balancing responsibilities. The fourth was physical care. Then we had emotional self-care. We had self-discovery, time management, self-comparison, setting goals, and real expectations. And then we talked about some self-care routine ideas. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. I will be coming out with a lot more topics like this. Like I said, this took me a little time because I really had to just sit back and think from a mother and wife's point of view. Even though I am a mom and wife, I had to really just turn it on. So I do plan on doing more content like this for y'all, where we sit at my desk and we unpack it all. But yeah, if y'all like this content, give it a thumbs up. Let me know down below if you liked it. Like I said, list those self-care routine ideas. Any comments, thoughts and concerns, list them down below. And I will see y'all in my next video.